Hello everyone, Silva here and welcome to another video about the story of FreeSpace, this time the non-canon story, because the complete canon story was already covered with my 4 previous story episodes, so now all that's left is the user-created stuff, which is obviously non-canon. And for the first video in this part of the series, we'll have a look at a campaign that is closely connected to the canon story and also one of the best user-created campaigns currently available, Silent Threat Reborn. The original Silent Threat was the official mission pack for FreeSpace 1, but as I mentioned before, this mission pack and especially its main campaign had their problems. The pack was released shortly after FreeSpace 1's initial release at a point where most of the developers were already working on FreeSpace 2, so obviously not the same amount of work and quality control went into the creation of this Silent Threat campaign, and it shows. The main problems of that campaign are its slim story and its lackluster gameplay presentation, alongside several bugs and inconsistencies. Especially the final mission in the campaign is, in my opinion, and as far as I know, other people's opinion too, simply underwhelming and boring. Nevertheless, the story had potential, which it quite obviously wasted in the original release, but the potential was there and the community saw it. And so the community came together to reimagine this story, expand on it, use its full potential and correct the mistakes of the original campaign to show this part of the FreeSpace lore in a new and improved version. And in 2008, the first version of Silent Threat Reborn was then released. Okay, so much for the introduction and the history of that campaign. Now on to the story itself. The story starts shortly after the destruction of the Lucifer in FreeSpace 1. Earth has been disconnected from the rest of the GTA, and the remaining part of the GTA now tries to adapt to this new situation, disconnected from their homeworld and capital, while at the same time dealing with the remaining Shivan forces and trying to uphold the newly formed alliance with the Vesudans. The player character is a pilot assigned to the GTD Krios, flagship for the Special Operations branch of the Galactic Terran Intelligence GTI. Special Operations' primary goal at the beginning of the campaign is to deal with the remaining Shivan forces and to preserve the Terran Vesudan alliance by any means necessary. That includes destroying GTA ships, which fired upon Vesudan ships before that incident gets publicly known. During an escort mission protecting a Vesudan science convoy, the Terran science ship Einstein unexpectedly shows up. The Einstein was originally thought to be destroyed in the first Shivan attack in ROS 128, but this ship now showing up in Deneb several months later raises suspicion. The Einstein then gets destroyed by Shivan forces, but the crew manages to escape using escape pods, and the pilots from the Krios follow those pods. After protecting the escape pods from another Shivan attack, a little confusion ensues between the commander of the Krios, Admiral Scott, and the commander of the GTD Repulse, flagship of GTI's R&D branch, Admiral Marcus Glaive. Both admirals claimed to be ordered to take the escape pods on board, and so one pod lands on the Repulse and one on the Krios. And both admirals are upset about one another because of the perceived interference in their rescue operation. After this incident, Admiral Scott starts his private investigation in the background on the Einstein and its survivors. His crew in the meantime continues with their regular missions, dealing with the remaining Shivan forces and the chaos they caused in Terran space. But during an escort of a GTI R&D science convoy from Antares to Beta Aquilae, more suspicious things happen, as a large Shivan attack force shows up trying to capture one of the science ships. It seems whatever experiments GTI R&D did on those ships attracted the Shivans big time. But whatever experiment that was, GTI R&D is not willing to talk with anyone about it, not even other GTI members. So the Krios continues with their mission to cleaning up the remaining Shivan forces, eventually destroying all of their activities until only one hub remains, the ROS 128 system. After the final strike against the SD Archon, the last remaining Shivan flagship, which would have been the crowning victory against the Shivans, something strange happens. The Krios' forces lose contact with their flagship, and when more GTI R&D ships show up after the end of the mission, the pilots of the Krios become suspicious and jump back to their ship, only to discover that it is under attack from Terran forces, GTI forces. Unfortunately, they are unable to save the Krios, and Admiral Scott and most of his crew die when the ship gets destroyed. The surviving pilots and officers are then transferred to the GTD Soyakaze, flagship of GTI's reconnaissance branch. It is then revealed that Admiral Scott was about to uncover a ploy by GTI R&D to overthrow the provisional GTA government in Delta Serpentis and dissolve the alliance with the Vesudans to completely destroy the remainder of the Vesudan race and end the Terran-Vesudan war with a victory for the Terrans. And in order to prevent this information from getting out, GTI R&D orchestrated the attack on the Krios to destroy any evidence. As soon as this information gets released from the Soyakaze, all GTI R&D forces go rogue and the Repulse moves to Delta Serpentis, where they attack a Vesudan diplomatic complex. After some initial confusion, the Alliance officially declares war on the GTI R&D forces and disbanded the entire galactic Terran intelligence, integrating all remaining loyal forces into their regular fleet. The Alliance then strikes back against GTI R&D, discovering a secret shipyard in the Delta Serpentis system, which is empty and no evidence is left behind what was constructed there, only that it must be something huge. Soon thereafter, the Soyakaze responds to a distress call from a Vesudan blockade at the subspace node between Delta Serpentis and Beta Aquilae. Something had sliced through this blockade, but the survivors were unable to give any meaningful information about what really happened there. But it becomes more and more clear that GTI R&D constructed some kind of superweapon to achieve their goal and destroy the remaining Vesudan population. In light of those events, Terran Command decides to reveal the location of GTI's headquarters, Jotunheim installation in Beta Aquilae, and conduct a strike against that installation. But when the installation is destroyed, the GTI super destroyer Hades shows up, a combination of Terran and Shivan technology and the superweapon GTI R&D constructed in Delta Serpentis. Lacking the power to attack a target of that magnitude at that moment, the Terran ships are forced to retreat and regroup, giving the GTI R&D time to start a counteroffensive, attacking several Terran and Vesudan targets in Beta Aquilae and Vega. One of the victims of that campaign is the Vesudan Aegyptus installation, despite valiant efforts by Terran forces to protect that station from the GTI. Eventually, the Terran forces come up with an attack plan against the Hades, and although the ship tries to escape to the Deneb system, it is later in that system attacked and, after a long and fierce battle, destroyed in orbit of one of the planets of Deneb. The wreckage then crashing onto that planet, where it can be seen in the FreeSpace 2 intro cinematic. And that is the story of the improved and reimagined Hades Rebellion of Silent Threat Reborn. I can only recommend that you play this campaign for yourself. As I said, it is one of the best user-created campaigns currently available. Thank you so far for watching this video. See you again in one of my other videos if you like to. And until then, take care and goodbye.